Good morning, you guys. So I decided that I sort of wanted to do sort of a chit chat, get ready with me, sort of sit down, and I really wanted to talk about how I stopped feeling so lost, I'm gonna say, because I feel like I so I graduated in 2020 from college, and I mean that period of time was already sort of you know, a lot of stuff was going on in the world, but I also graduated really not knowing what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted it to consist of. And I guess what I really wanted to share with you guys was how I actually was able to overcome that, how I was able to sort of get on some kind of path. And this has only happened recently, okay? Because, I mean, I've been struggling for the last 4 years to try and figure out what I wanted my life to actually look like. By the way, I'm going to link all the products that I'm using in the description box below, so don't worry about it. But I really felt lost for about, I'm going to say 3 years after college. And there's even been times in the last year when I've been more centered and focused on what I wanted in my life. There's even been times in the last few months when it's felt like, okay, really, is this actually what I want my life to look like? And so I graduated college with a degree in accounting and finance. And, you know, I always tell people that I went to school really greedy because, I mean, I was just going there to try and get the bougiest job that made me the most money and that would basically get me the most beautiful apartment, yada, yada, yada. And, I mean, that's sort of what I was told and what I assumed most people did, and I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people go to school with that goal in mind. But I think that my mistake was that I never actually looked at what I wanted, and I never actually thought about, okay, is that truly what you would like to do? Is that what you really want your life to look like? You know, when you think about that, is it actually plausible and something that you can see yourself doing on a day-to-day basis? You know, sitting in an office and doing tax returns all day, or, you know, helping people with their money, or whatever that might look like. You know, is it actually something that you can see yourself doing and see yourself loving? And I had never actually asked myself that question. I had literally just looked at it from a standpoint of people tell me that this is a good idea. Like, you know, when I would tell people, oh, I'm going to school for this, they were instantly pleased, right? People were instantly like, oh yeah, like that's a really smart, really good decision, things like that. And so I really based that decision a lot on people's reaction to it and on how much money was possible with that kind of degree. And so I never actually sat down and said, okay, Ellison, do you like it? Like, do you, like, not even love it, do you even like it? And so I graduated in 2020 actually just like hating. I mean, I hated my degree 100%. I was just desperate for the longest time to do everything possible to not work in the field that I went to school for, because I hated it. And I mean, I still have absolutely no interest in working in it. But I mean, now I can actually see the benefit in having a business degree and having basically a degree in money. I can actually see the benefit in having that in my back pocket, but for a long time I just saw it as a disadvantage. All I saw was, oh, the 6-figure debt that I had, and the, you know, all of the hurt and the stress and all of these feelings. That's all that I actually saw, and that's all that I actually paid attention to. And so sort of talking about how I stopped feeling so lost. Because, I mean, I've only really just discovered this in the last few months of how to not feel lost. And I would have to say that the biggest thing that has really helped me to be centered and be grounded is that I stop making these, is that I stop caring about where other people are in their life, and that I stop trying to do things to keep up with them. You know, whether that's the jobs that they have, the relationships that they have, how much money they're making, where they live, you know, whatever it is, that I stop trying to keep up with them. You know, I had several friends from college that, I mean, they got married and had these big jobs right out of college. And, you know, I have another friend that she didn't even go to college, but she started a business and she was able to move out and all these things. And I found myself trying to keep up. And, you know, what ended up happening was that I would take actions that were so not right for me, and I would make decisions and start things and try things and get on these paths that it was like not in alignment with who I am, not in alignment with what I wanted, but in somewhere in my mind I thought, well, if I do this, then I can keep up with them. If I do this, then, you know, I'll get to this place in my life quicker. And, you know, I won't feel so embarrassed to be around them, and I won't feel like, oh, I'm a failure, and stuff like that. And I just, for the longest time, I based all my decisions on that, on, you know, oh, will they like this? Will this, you know, will this help me to get to the same place in life as they are quicker? Will this, you know, bring me enough money to, you know, live at the same caliber as they are? And, you know, I think that there's nothing wrong with, you know, being motivated to live your life differently. I think that I'm very motivated to live my life differently. But I think that the issue comes when you stop being true to yourself and you stop asking yourself what you want your life to look like. And for the longest time, I mean, I was not asking myself, really, like actually sitting down and being honest with myself and saying, this is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want. Like, I'm okay with moving slower because I'm working on something different. And so that was huge. You know, it was the whole stop, number one, comparing myself to other people. I mean, comparison is such a toxic thing that we all do, and it's almost impossible to avoid. But, you know, when we catch ourselves comparing ourselves to somebody else and comparing our lives to somebody else's life, I think that's the real ticket for me anyways, because I don't really ever compare myself to other people as in my personality or, you know, anything like that. But I always compare my life situation to somebody else's and thinking, you know, well, why can't I be there? Why can't I, you know, progress to that level? What's wrong with me? What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? And, you know, stuff like that. I feel like that's how I really compare myself and get into a trap of comparison. Where is my lip gloss? I had a lip gloss. Well, that's not fun. Well, I guess I'll use this one. And so that was like the biggest thing for me, was sitting down and saying, okay, I need to stop comparing my life to anybody else's life. I need to stop comparing it to this one friend's life who, you know, oh, she's making this much money and living this kind of lifestyle, or, you know, anything like that. just stop comparing my life to theirs. Because when I sat down and really looked at the people whose life I was comparing my life to, it was like, I don't want my life to look like theirs. The biggest thing that I wanted was to not be ashamed of my life. That was the biggest thing that was on my mind, is that I don't want to be ashamed of my life anymore. I don't want to be embarrassed of my life anymore. I don't want to feel like a failure anymore. I want to feel like I've made it in some way. And, how I was doing that was trying to emulate them, right? And once again, just like my decision to go to college, it was not a decision of, yeah, I really want to. It was a decision of, this seems to make people happy, so I guess that's what I'll do. Just like a really twisted version of people pleasing, I feel like. And so I started really sitting down. How I stopped feeling so lost was that I started really sitting down and asking myself, okay, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my life to represent? What am I okay with doing? What am I okay with, the sacrifices that I'm willing to make, right? Because it doesn't matter what job you have, there's sacrifice in some fashion, whether it's, you work for a company and so you sacrifice some of that freedom, or you work for yourself, well, you sacrifice a lot of time and you sacrifice a lot of freedom in a different way, right? And so really looking at my life and saying, what do I want it to look like? Like, really, what do I want it to look like? And realizing that I didn't want it to look like all the people that I had been comparing my life to, and getting down to what my purpose is, what my why is, what really sets my heart on fire as far as work, what sets my heart on fire as far as purpose and impact on people. And that was what I started really looking at. And even with this YouTube channel, it was like, okay, what do I want my life to look like, and how do I want my YouTube channel to fit into that? What do I want my YouTube channel to look like? Is it just like all the other YouTube channels that are out there that are doing the same old thing? Or is it something else entirely? Is it something else, so uniquely me? And figuring out what it means to be so uniquely me, because for the longest time I was just trying to be somebody else. And yeah, just really figuring out what's important to me, what I love. And I started asking myself the question, if there were no people in the room with me, if I was completely alone, if I was 100% completely alone, not worried about anybody in the world, and we'll say that the world is the room, and there's no, there aren't any other people, it's just me, then what would I do? If I had absolutely no fear, if there was no risk of people teasing me, of people looking down at me, of people saying bad things to me, what would I do? Would I do things this way? Would I do things this way? Would I take this bold action? Would I invest in this? What would I do? And, when I looked at my life that way, in this fashion of, okay, there's, nobody's watching, right? I don't have an audience anymore. When I started looking at my life that way, then it really started unfolding as far as, well, this is the kind of thing I would do. right? I wouldn't be embarrassed to, I don't know, post on Instagram. I wouldn't be embarrassed to create videos like this on YouTube. Excuse me. I have a tickle. I wouldn't be embarrassed to do what I loved, because for the longest time I was just embarrassed of doing what I loved, because it always felt like what I loved was silly to other people, and that me being passionate would just earn me, teasing. And I didn't want to be teased. I didn't want to be teased about something that meant a lot to me and that I was working really hard to accomplish. Like this YouTube channel. I worked very hard to get to the very small place that I am now. And I didn't want to be teased about it. And so taking away that risk, taking away the risk in my mind, where I said, there is no risk. Let's just pretend that there is no risk. What would I do? And instantly, it just opened up for me as far as, oh, well, this is what I would do. Like, this is what has been on my mind forever. Like, sitting down and talking to you like this, that has been on my mind forever. This easy, communicative, honest, open, unedited feeling of just, yeah, we're chatting and we're hanging out. Like, I wouldn't have done that a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, because I was embarrassed and there were people telling me that I couldn't do my YouTube channel like this. But when I removed those voices, I was able to say, yep, this is what I want. Because they weren't, they weren't creating conflict in my mind anymore. And so I guess that was the biggest thing. And I'm sure I'll probably come on here a bajillion more times in the future talking about how I don't feel lost anymore, because I feel like life is just a process of finding what you've been looking for and then going deeper and searching for something else. And so so that's where I'm at now. That's where I'm at right now as far as feeling lost and figuring out a way to not feel lost anymore, and figuring out a way to not be ashamed of who you are and of who I am and of what I want my life to really look like. So that's where I'm at. I hope you enjoy this chit chat, get ready with me. I will link all the products that I'm using down below. A lot of these products, I wanted to ask you guys, so I have celiac disease, and so I've noticed that there's a lot of products that I used before that started itching my skin, and so I'm thinking that a lot of them, that there's gluten in it. That's what celiac disease is. It is basically an intestine-eating gluten allergy, okay? But it can also show up like, in topical things that you put on your face and on your skin. And so I've been looking for makeup brands that do not have gluten in them. So if you guys know of any that, whether they're affordable or high-end, whatever it is, I'll look into them. But if you guys know of any brands that are gluten-free and that have a gluten-certified facility that they're making their products in, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop those in the comments and let me know. Just because that has been quite the quest, and an expensive one. It's been an expensive one as well, because wow. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you guys know of any gluten-free brands out there, I would appreciate it if you'd let me know about them. So, well, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for hanging out with me. I love this time together.